Hey guys, Paul here with Patek. In this video I'm going to give you a look at my new production studio. Moved into a new house in June 2020. I've got the studio pretty much whipped into shape the way I want it. You might find something of interest, some tips and tricks that might help you in your setup. So if you like that kind of thing, I've got a video for you. Let's jump in, we'll take a look. Okay, so what you're looking at here is a 13 by 11 foot office, and it's 11 feet wide. So from the extreme left over to the extreme right wall here is roughly 11 feet wide, and from the back wall there, from here to the wall just on this side is 13 feet. So it's not overly huge, and just to give you a better perspective, this is what the split view looks like. So you can see that on the left side here, this is my day job, and on the right side here, this is my personal setup. This is where the setup I use to create my YouTube videos, and I use it occasionally for day job stuff now that COVID's in play and people are working from home more. But the key to this setup is this MDF desk that I built about 10 years ago, and it's held up really well. I mean, it's heavy as all get out, but it's just a 3/4 inch MDF that's been sanded and stained and lacquered. And then I'm using 4x4 posts to create, to support everything. And then I used to use 2x4s against the wall, screwed into the wall. But in the new house, this is the new version, I just use the same kind of rails, like metal framing rails on the wall to support the section of the desk. But this setup works extremely well. I mean, I've got a office setup or for my day job. On the right-hand side, I've got the personal stuff, and then I've still got some extra space in here. And let's take a close-up look here. So this is what the office looked like about a week ago. And when you come in the door, I had everything on the right side. And just recently, about a day ago, I updated the setup and cleaned up the look and feel of it. And the reason that I moved it was because on this side of the office here, you can see that the monitor was kind of sticking out into the walkway and the lighting and everything, and it was really making the office seem a little bit smaller than it is. So by adopting this setup, I was able to eliminate one monitor. So I still have the same Godox 260 P260C lighting system, and I'm planning to get another one. Actually, I've purchased it, just haven't received it yet, and it'll mount on this spigot here. But this system is a lot cleaner. It's exactly the same as what I had before, but just oriented to the left. And I'll show you in a little bit. You can't really see that well here, but I've cleaned up the cable management. I used to have my router set up on the table here. We might be able to see that if we go back to the old setup. Yeah, you can see it a little bit. It's this black box in behind, and there was a stand, and I had the Netgear router on it, and the cables they're all going down, and now everything's been shifted up. So I've moved everything up to the top. So I have my modem and my router up the top, and it just cleans things up tremendously. Okay. Behind the desk setup, I have 3 cabinets, a bit of a space here under the desk, and then some shelving. And this is where, if I'm using a camera, or I'm setting a camera up, or I'm putting a rig together, something like that, this is where I do that kind of stuff. So now if we move to the extreme left of this desk setup here, not really much to show you here. It's just a messy bookshelf, but the intention is, because this office's production suite is a work in progress, I want to have some nice built-in cabinets with drawers that run from this wall on this side right over almost to the edge of the door. So you see a couple of camera bags and some miscellaneous stuff, but really it's just a rat's nest, kind of a dumping ground that I use. 90% of the time I'm working on this surface over here. All right, so let's get started with the camera that I'm shooting on. So right now I'm shooting with my A7 III. Audio's coming through the Azden Pro XD lav system, which I absolutely love. Had it for years, works exceptionally well. And the lens is the new 24mm Sony G Master f1.4. And I actually just received it today, so I won't be doing any reviews on it. But from what I see and from everything I've heard, it should be pretty spiffy, sharp images, so that's a good thing. So starting on the right here, you're looking at a homemade speaker stand, foam insulator, and I have a Mackie studio monitor, so a pair of them actually, and super cheap. They're about 120 bucks in Canada, so it's probably like 50 bucks US. But these are studio monitors which don't give you excessive bass or excessive treble. They're kind of right in the middle, which helps picking up HVAC noises and humming and stuff like that. So highly recommend them. I've had them for quite some time with no issues really. Wacom tablet, if you're doing a lot of retouching. I do a lot of headshots, and I'm always retouching, and so the Wacom tablet is invaluable for that. I know some people they can't get used to the pen pressure or how the pen works, but if you haven't tried one, you can get the small size one like I have here for under $100. So by all means, you know, take a shot at it for sure. You'd be glad you did. Another homemade little stand here. This is basically just to house my Behringer, and this is a Euphoria UMC 204 HD audio interface, and it works exceptionally well with the Audio-Technica AT2020 microphone attached to the Rode PSA-1 arm. Works really well, no issues, okay? Samsung 4K monitor, and then probably what I get the most questions about is this, the Wally, well, it's a Wally arm system. Thank you, Caleb Pike, a DSLR video shooter. But it's a Wally arm system that I use for my overhead rig. It's just a Chinese ball head with a little Manfrotto cleat, and you can hold your webcam, C920 in this case, or A6000, Nikon D3300, G85 if you got one, Sony A7 III. It'll take the weight, but I mean, you don't really want to put a big camera on here. Keeps, you know, for smaller stuff, but works really well. No issues with it at all. Very happy with it. This little guy here is just a box I made out of 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch plywood, and a lot of times the things that you make yourself are the most handy, especially if you're shooting video every day. And speaking of handy, I wouldn't do anything without this RMT. This is a Sony RMT DSLR2 remote control for turning the camera on and off. Works with my Sony A6000, with my A7 III, you know, invaluable tool. Remote control for the Godox, LED panel behind me, and I have a second panel coming, so if you noticed in the intro, the right side of my face was a little dark. I know some people like that. It's kind of an artistic look, but yeah, so that should be here in a couple of days to solve that issue. I have another remote control here for my Parrot teleprompter, which another invaluable tool, some pens, needle nose pliers. Yeah, just a nice little, you know, keeps everything in the same place. Little remote for my colored lights if I want to use pink and blue in the intros. So that helps as well. Another speaker stand, and these are the base model Mackie studio monitors. You can get a higher model up that has USB connectivity to your phone and all that stuff, but I don't find that I need it. I try to keep things simple. Little volume control on the front of this, and then that's all I really need. So moving along here, part of the Wally arm. So I have one arm with an extension. This is a Neewer ball head going to my Sony A6000. This is what I shoot my intros on. I used to have the camera on this side shooting this way. Now I've got it on the left shooting this way, so the background's a little different. And this is the Viltrox 23mm f1.4 lens for the APS-C cameras. Great lens. Go out and grab one if that's what you're looking for. I would use this, and I use my Sigma 16mm f1.4. Those two lenses do most of my YouTube video duty. So. And the A6000 is terrific, except that it sucks as far as the audio interface goes. There isn't one. I mean, it'll record audio, but you know, there's no place to plug in an external speaker, so that's kind of an issue. But so the why I do it this way, I just have the Sony here, and then I let the audio come through the Behringer, and then sync it in post, and no real problem doing that at all. And so moving everything from right to left the way that I did allowed me to eliminate one monitor, and this monitor is up off the desk through another arm, and then I have the panel on top, and then I talked a little bit earlier about cleaning up the wiring for my modem and my Wi-Fi system. So, and I think I already mentioned about this desk being 3/4 inch MDF. I mean, this is the heart of the system. It's been great. And now I've had it so long, I don't really hesitate if I want to fix my cable management or run new wires, you know, I'll punch a hole someplace to run the cable down under the desk so that it's out of sight. And but all in all, this is my personal setup, and very happy with it. The only other thing that's going to be added is another Godox light panel. So yeah, let's move on. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the tools that I use on a day-to-day basis as far as lenses, and it might help you with your, what you're doing, that kind of thing. So Nikon D3300 is fairly old now. I still use it from time to time, but this is what I started shooting on video on years ago. Really nice little camera. I mean, you can pick up one of these for 250 bucks. Get a this is a Nikkor 35mm 1.8G lens, and it still shoots great video, but compared to the Sony a7 III, I mean, things have changed dramatically. This a7 III practically sees in the dark, if you know what I mean. But that's where I started. Bread and butter lens lately has been this Tamron 28 to 75mm 2.8, and you can't beat the quality for the money. I mean, the whole Tamron line seems to be bulletproof. And just recently, I picked up the 70 to 180 2.8, and I just did a video on it not too long ago. And because I do a lot of headshots, I wanted something that would crush the background and give, the primary reason for buying this type of a lens, okay, is you want that compression. So you want to bring the background in tight behind your subject. And this lens does a terrific job of it, and it's, fairly light. You could shoot a wedding with this thing, no issues whatsoever. So if you're on the fence about picking one of these Tamron 70 to 180s up, just go and get it. I highly recommend it. Another lens that you'll see compared in the recent video I did of the 70 to 180 is this Viltrox 85mm 1.8. Really surprising lens, great quality for the Sony cameras. So that's another lens that I use all the time. Now here's a lens that most people would balk at. It's a 50mm FE 1.8, but you know what? It does the job. What can I say? If you want that 50mm focal length and you don't want to spend big bucks on Zeiss, then this is a good option. The images are not that bad, okay? And then last but not least, I mentioned earlier that the G Master that we're shooting on right now, I just got that today. So that, like, so far from what I see, it's going to be a pretty awesome lens for sure. Okay, another tool is this Hoodman hood loop. If you're outside in bright sunlight and you want to look through and see, on your LCD screen on the back, these things are amazing for that. 16 to 50mm kit lens. I take it on vacation, but that's about it. This is an L bracket. This is a small rig L bracket. And before I got the cage on the a7 III, I was using this quite a bit. Great product. Small rig, what can I say? I mean, their stuff is awesome for sure. So. I mentioned earlier about the Padcaster. This is the teleprompter from Parrot, and this is a really cool device. I mean, I can sit it on my little stand there with the Sony a6000, and this thing here just pulls down, and your iPhone sits in here, comes with the software, and a great little product. I mean, as long as you're 3 or 4 feet away, you can read, you can speed up and slow down the text. I used to have a big expensive $1,500, I think, paid for a teleprompter years ago, but I got rid of it because I don't use it. But from time to time, I'll find that I want to do something with a teleprompter. I know some YouTubers, they script everything, but I find it's a lot easier to just talk off the cuff. It's more realistic. And most of the stuff I'm doing is just giving advice anyway, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But this is a great tool. Another tool I have that I mentioned was the Sigma lens, 60mm f1.4 for my APS-C. I mean, this lens, and it's got this buttery smooth focus just on it, so just an absolutely killer lens. I mean, if you wanted to have one lens for your APS-C, A6500, 6600, what have you, I mean, this would be the lens for sure, and most people will tell you the same thing. Another tool that I use a fair amount, and this is a Lilliput 7-inch monitor, and I have the little small rig mount. I forget what you call this, but this goes on my A7 III when I need a monitor so I can see myself if I'm out in the field or something like that, and I can't take one of my studio monitors with me. But great tool and not too expensive for sure, and this monitor works quite well. Another tool that I use fairly often is this little gizmo here, and this is Aputure Amron AL-H160, and this thing is absolutely invaluable. I don't care whether you're working under your sink upstairs or you're doing something photography related. These LED lights are great. I'll put an image for another one, the newer ones that I've seen come out from Aputure, really, really small, fit in your shirt pocket. I mean, I'm definitely going to pick one of those up. And the beauty is they not only they have the internal lithium batteries, but they do RGB as well as just different ranges of white light. So that's a cool thing too. So, but these are pretty much the basic tools that I use, day to day to get the job done. One other thing, this is a Camlink 4K capture card, and I talked a little bit about this when I did my video on multicam capture, and you'll see, I'll put a little picture up to that video there, but if you go on the channel, you'll see I've got tons of video on YouTube radio triggers, multicam capture software, you name it. Take a look and do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. That always helps. But the Camlink 4K works well provided you have a decent processor. I use it on my main computer, my personal computer, which is an i7 8700K, and still sometimes the audio and video will be out of sync, so it's not perfect. So you really want to have a good processor, a good graphics card, and lots of RAM if you're going to use one of these capture cards. Yeah, it's definitely an option if you're wanting to add a camera and you don't have a capture card. This thing is definitely an option for you. So a couple other things that I use all the time. This Deity D3 Pro microphone is very handy for picking good quality audio. And then I have this little Manfrotto tripod head. And this thing is really, you buy something sometimes and you wonder whether it's going to be any good. And this thing, I bought it, thinking that, and I use it all the time because it's so simple in the way that it works. You just press the button, you can move the ball, you can put your camera on it, you can hold it out like this if you're doing selfie style video. So yeah, that's a great tool for sure. Another thing that I picked up just recently was this, it's a base plate from SmallRig. And the reason I needed this was a particular video tripod that I was using when I had my camera mounted on the top of the head. There was just no room to get in and make adjustments. So this little spacer guy here that I picked up gives a little bit more room, raises the camera up a little bit, and gives me that extra little bit of space. But that, my friends, is pretty much the whole kit and caboodle for what I use on a day-to-day basis. So I hope you found this video useful. Do me a favor, subscribe and like. I really appreciate it. There's no cost to you. None of the products in this video are sponsored, okay? I own all of it, bought and paid for with my own hard-earned cash. So, and if you have any questions about any of this stuff, by all means, just connect in, shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to get back to you. I don't care whether it's a question about, you're shooting video, retouching a headshot, or, the Wally arm setup or what have you. I'm happy to hear from you, and I'll get back as soon as I can. So that's it for this one. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye now.